It's Gene. So, round of applause, everyone. There we go.
I'm Gavin. I'm the founder, investor, and chief architect of Pecos Data Systems. It's based in Dallas. Has an office at the Capital Factory at 3102 Oaklawn. Two of my colleagues are here, Paul Ridney and Maureen Ackman. So we're here to talk to you today briefly about what we do. And I always like to start off with a story. It was a dark and stormy night in Amarillo. Lightning hits a wind turbine. Wind blows over a set of utility poles. A dairy farm loses electricity. Could that have been prevented? We think so. There's a new device out there that the utility industry has started to play around with called a drone. You probably heard about it. You might have saw it in the news. These are like flying computers. They provide a lot of information very quickly that isn't easily captured with human eyes or with satellites or with other technologies. A lot of the things that the electric utility industry does is above the ground, and a lot of it is very high in the air, usually about 60 feet or higher, and generally most people can't see it from the ground. And it's certainly much more difficult to see it from a helicopter, even if you're trying, and much more dangerous. What we do is we take these images with drones, and we take sophisticated computer processing capability to say, this thing in here is corroded, this thing in here has already been hit by lightning, and it's now time to go fix it. You can't do that from the ground, you can't do that from a helicopter, and existing methods wait for it to break. And often it's actually very predictable that it's going to break, so that dairy farmer is sitting out there losing money every day, the wind turbine operator is losing money every day when that turbine isn't spinning. And actually some of the turbines, after they've been hit by lightning, actually catch on fire. They start to short out, and then they turn them back on, and they don't work right, and somebody has to go out to deal with that. This is what we do, and our customers are the utility industry, and there's been studies done by General Electric and by prominent think tanks that if you do these types of activities, you'll have lower downtime, which means more electricity for everybody, more electricity that comes through at a cheaper rate, which is greater capacity, and that the actual operating cost, which is your electric bill, will go down. How do we do that? Well, without getting too, I'll try to keep this in layman's terms. We have a data system. We take a drone, we take the base data into the data system, we augment it with human and condition tagging. In other words, we go and see what's all the equipment out there, which is a big surprise to people that, Excel, even some of the wind turbine companies do not know the equipment that's on their actual pieces or on their structures. Most of the utilities that we've spoken to have no idea where the transformers are. They know that they're out there, but they don't know where they are specifically. They don't know where critical equipment like lightning protection equipment is. They don't know whether it's properly installed. So the first thing we do is we figure out where it is and we tag it digitally, and then we begin to use machine learning and AI to figure out when it's going to break. We add overlays of geospatial mapping data, which everybody's used Google Maps here, I presume. I mean, that's a geospatial database. We take a geospatial database like Google Maps, and we take weather data, which in many cases is proprietary to us, because we understand how the weather data comes in from the satellites, and we pull that in. And we put out to the utility company, without them having to know what's happening, but the data system, here's equipment that might have been hit by lightning, here's equipment that needs maintenance, here's equipment that's corroded, here's where your equipment is, here's how much it might be worth. That's basically what our product is. So you subscribe to this data, and if you're a person that has to go out in the field and fix all this stuff, which most of our customers are that, they then don't have to think about all this. They just basically have to say, I have to go to that wind turbine that got hit by lightning, I have to go to that dairy farm's distribution line and fix his poles and get everything started. And by the way, I didn't know what I was going to run into when I went out there, so there's two components to that. I didn't know what equipment failed, and I also didn't even know how to get there. Sometimes they're using Google Maps. Then simply say, where is that dairy farm? How do I get there? I'm a crew, I haven't been out there for years, or maybe we've never been there. So that actually is a key component of our data service. We add value in a lot of different ways to the process. This is our technology stack. In Silicon Valley terms, this is basically the sets of technologies that we rely on to make our data systems work. And you probably heard about AI. I don't know how much you guys know about it. Artificial intelligence is a way of replacing human expertise. There's a couple different people that actually mastered this. We use one that's academic, which is OpenCV. We use one that's done by Silicon Valley called Apache Kafka. And we use Google's version of it, which all of them I'm confident and capable of working with. We actually use also predictive models that were done within the industry. There's a company that actually specializes in whether poles fell down, utility poles. And they built a predictive maintenance model, but they never actually gave it to anybody. So they can tell you if a pole's leaning at a 10-degree angle, that in a large wind it will fall down. But nobody uses the model. They actually built a math model, they published it, but nobody actually applies it to all the poles in a system. Same with PPG. PPG actually has a corrosion model for transformers. Never been applied in the field. So we take their models, we take mapping systems like Google, we take weather data systems from the satellites, and if you've been following the hurricane, we're very confident in taking satellite data and getting it near real time decision quality. And actually, at some point, we may actually put a satellite antenna on a place like this and pull it in real time. And we use presentation technology that is familiar to people on their smartphones or on their tablets or on their hardened workbooks. So that's what our company does. We've been doing this since January 2019, 2018. I always think it's January 2019, but 2018, we spent the first year working with Florida Power and Light on demonstrating this technology. It caused they didn't expect what came out of it. So it caused quite a bit of headaches with both their operations team and the CFO. CFO says, I spend this amount on maintenance, and I've been doing this for years, and because I spend this amount, I don't know how much I'm going to spend if I do this. And then the operations guys were really not very happy about when their bosses found out they didn't know what equipment was where. You can imagine, you guys all run businesses or your investors. They said, well, there's 200,000 lightning arresters somewhere in Florida. Where are they? Are they installed? Do they function? There's 500 transformers in a 20-mile radius in a farming community called Okeechobee County, which is similar to this area. It's mostly dairy farms. Are they corroded? Are they functioning? Are they going to go down? These dairy farms in Florida rely heavily on electricity. I don't know how your dairy farms do here, but they basically fail massively when electricity doesn't show up. So the powers in that community went to P&L and said, aren't you doing anything about this? And they said, we've done everything we can. And I went out there and photographed all this stuff and processed it through our systems, and they hadn't done everything they can. So one of my major challenges right now, the utility industry does not want to accept this massive amounts of change. It's like the taxi industry would do. When Uber showed up, they're like, make it illegal. Make sure it doesn't show up in my community. I can't be a taxi driver if Uber's here. Well, if we're here and a utility, they have to correct the problems that they could have known about. And they have to do it more efficiently, and it's unknown quantity of how much they have to spend because they may or may not know the problems. It's like you going to a doctor having been there for 10 years. You don't necessarily know whether you have a problem. Well, the doctor says you have a problem, now you got to fix it. Same kind of story here with these power companies. So my big challenge, and I've been talking to a lot of power companies, is good idea. Let somebody else be first. Great idea. I'll pay lots of money when somebody else figures it out. So I need a beta customer. And on wind turbines, I still don't understand why they let guys go up in ropes to look at these things or let them burn down when you could actually find out almost immediately after a storm what's wrong with them. And not very high cost. And there's lots of turbines here, which is one of the reasons why we're here. The other reasons, you've got a great facility, great community, and it appears you all understand business. What type of questions do you have? Right here.
What could this have done for Pacific Gas and Electric with these fires?
Paul, you want to take that one?
Well, one of the things is a predictive model for vegetation encroachment. So imagine you fly over an area, AI can tell what vegetation you have, the type of vegetation based upon the environment. You can pull in data from NOAA that says in this environment, this latitude with this amount of rain, this type of vegetation will grow at this rate, the AI can tell you how far the vegetation is from your infrastructure. And we're pretty sure, I think that PG&E, one of the issues they had was vegetation encroachment. You can predict that. You can give a tool to the maintenance crews. You need to go out to this spot at this time in the next 3 months to clear out this area. So that gives you, that's, I think for PG&E, that just drops. That's just a little drop in the bucket. The lightning arrestor information or lightning prediction data, Gene and our CTO developed a process where you can pull NOAA data and provide an area where lightning strikes have occurred, and that gives you a model to predict or potential lightning strikes. That's a powerful tool. And as our AI tools expand, because they will as we have customers, I think PG&E, I don't know if it would have, you can't say what you don't know, but I think it would have been a dramatic benefit to PG&E's operation.
The scary thing about it to me is, it's like, okay, so I've got all this information, but I don't want to spend the money to do anything about it. And
right.
I mean, they got sued and
well, they're going to be bankrupt. They're what was it, 18, 20 billion? I mean,
Yeah.
their capitalization is half of what their claims are against them.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean,
One of our investors is a trial lawyer because he thinks that just screw them all over, just collect the data and sue them out of business.
right. I can imagine.
if anything, if you can just provide a tool that allows them to go out and do their maintenance that they do now more effectively, I think we can reduce their costs a lot. And reduce their downtime caused by not maintaining the regular maintenance schedule. I understand if they go out and they find out, oh my gosh, all of our lightning arresters took 50,000 need to be all replaced. That's something they may not want to know.
Right.
But they can improve their maintenance scheduling process and save a lot of money that way.
Great value proposition. I'm not surprised that the carrot's not working. I think you may have to look for the stick. And so have you considered talking to insurance companies? And letting
Insurance companies, I'm a former employee of an insurance company and a senior advisor to Marshall McLennan.
Oh, so.
All right, Munich Re's head of risk management, which is in Switzerland. Marina, this is from Switzerland. She's a doctor, PhD in catastrophe management. She's one of our interested investors, but she too wants to see us make this work because she's tried to make it work for the insurance companies. And they've spent tens of millions of dollars and not figured out. And here's where the big companies aren't good. They don't know how to cobble together software from people that know how to do things, like Google Maps or like PPG's corrosion model. They try to net everything themselves.
Yes, they did.
All right, so you take an ecosystem, this is Silicon Valley model. Take an ecosystem of technologies and you build on top of it. But you need to make sure you don't have any risk in it. So I'll take AI platforms. Nobody's quite sure what an AI platform is, and some people don't even know whether they work because they're new technologies. So you have to have a lot, because you're going to have to basically say, we're not dependent on Google, we're not dependent on this new company called Apache, we're not dependent on the academic community. We're going to go find out which ones work, and then we'll settle on that later. Where drones, 80% of the drones sold in the United States are made in China, and all the software is made in China. So we have no choice, unless we want to fight that system, but to go with this DJI system. And the software people are very cleverly, they put what's called unlocked code in it. And the unlocked code means you can't see how to develop it, and they keep it in China. So we unlocked it in New Mexico, and then we figured out how to fix it, so we could do this. So your point is proper in that the stick is actually an interesting proposition. The stick actually might also come from the government.
Yeah.
In Texas, all these utilities are regulated, they're monopolies. The Public Utility Commission, any one of you that pays an electric bill can complain to them. The people in charge of it, who I've also talked to, I'm not going to say they're asleep at the switch, but I'm going to say they have a good job. Right? And they may not even have an electrical engineering degree. I doubt they've ever been up on a cherry picker on a utility truck pole. The other is the federal government is a strong interest rate right now in critical infrastructure, and they're worried that this is the next problem for us. All right, does that answer your question?
And it does, and one way that may, if you can't get in utility to respond, possibly a subcontractor for them that already has an in with them, maybe a more open door.
Yeah, that's right. You know, so some of the guys that actually have to fix these turbines,
Right.
they're tired of losing people, getting people hurt. That's probably the first proposition, because you're basically going to replace some of the jobs. But it's really still quite dangerous to do that. So, you know, the other thing is there's a lot of them. They've only shown up in, what, the last 6 years here? So there's not a lot of maintenance history on them. Nobody knows how to fix these things yet. You know, they're not like the utility poles I saw in Detroit. Some of them are 80 years old. You're like, okay, they built this 80 years ago and it's still functioning? This thing, some of these things here, you don't know what they're going to look like in 10 years. So like buying a car and just worrying that it's going to work in 10 years.
Great presentation, first of all, Jim.
Thank you.
A quick question, have you considered standards and NIST, for example? Is there maybe, you know, a detour to beat this, everybody's racing to the second dynamic?
That's a good point. In the United States, standards are self-regulated voluntary. In places like Germany, they're regulated mandatory. So in places like Switzerland, they're regulated mandatory. So here, the regulatory bodies tend to follow the manufacturers, which is a good thing for self-regulation. So if GE says, which is why I use GE Predix is one of my, you know, this thing works, don't trust us, it's GE turbine system works, and we'll tell you what the standards are for making sure it's safe. Everyone says, fine. If you're in Germany, Siemens says, well, the law in Germany says if you don't do it right, something serious is going to happen to you. So, you know, I'm not going to fight that battle yet. I'm also fighting a battle with the FAA that says we don't want these things flying around people's properties because we're worried that they're collecting data about God knows what. You know, I mean, we're looking at utility poles. When I was in Florida, I mean, we usually had to coordinate with the Sheriff's Department and the FAA. So we're very safety conscious. We want to make sure we didn't run into anything. But who's flying around utility poles, not airplanes? You shouldn't be, right? It's in General Aviation 101. You're not flying to a utility pole. Honestly, it's actually page 1 of the General Aviation 101. And page 2 says, you know, make sure you keep a high elevation so you don't worry about them. But the sheriff was worried in Okeechobee County that guys would come out and shoot them because they thought we were taking pictures of their cows, of all things. And I had lots of good pictures of cows, but they thought somehow, some way, the government wanted to know about their cows. I'm like, no, they don't want to know about their cows. We just care about this piece of equipment right here. You know. The other thing is the environmentalists. We saw a lot of birds in Florida. I don't know how many we'll see here. And they tend to take up residence in some of this equipment, and sometimes they cause it to malfunction. And sometimes there are animals that people care about, like ospreys or eagles. And you know, a lot of people don't want that part of the regulation either. You know, we have an osprey nest in Okeechobee, and it's sitting right on top of a transformer. You're like, who's going to go take that down? And who wants to know that? Right? What other questions?
Do you have a working, I mean, do you have a place to where you're working daily
Yes.
in certain areas?
Yes, in Dallas, Texas. We're at the Capital Factory at 30102 Oaklawn. We're soon to be here. We'll be here every day until November, possibly longer.
What I mean is that your drones are flying daily.
Most of our flying was done in last year. We have the largest database of processed utility poles in the world. We have over 20,000 utility poles right now in our database. We have a partner in Copenhagen. They have the largest wind turbine database processed by AI in the world. We are working on making that software more predictive and more informative. We're not collecting more drone data. We'd like to come here and do a lot more collection. We'd like to go on some of these distribution lines that have a lot of electricity load on them, specifically in heavy agriculture, and also into the wind turbine areas and collect a lot more data. The data collection is part of the story, but the bigger part of the story is processing it. The utility industry has bought drones. They bought over 1,000 of them. But they buy them, they fly up the pole, they look at them, they look at the picture, and they throw the data away. Just like you're looking at a cell phone shot and not putting it and curating it and making it into an album and using it for future knowledge. In this case, it's really important because that data is often subjective as what was done to it. I went up there to look at the cutout. I didn't look at the transformer. I went up there to look at the lightning arrestor system. I didn't look at the cutout. I didn't care that the pole was almost falling down because my job was to fix the lightning arrestor. So they looked at the picture, gone. Okay. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Is this super expensive to?
No, that's a great thing.
Very expensive.
And we can do for a utility pole, we can do it for $10 right now per year and $15 for setup. So there's probably, I guess, a couple 100,000 utility poles in the Amarillo area. Each utility pole carries about $3,000 worth of equipment, and its failure for your electricity costs you how much? And when your electricity goes out, how much time and effort do you lose? Right? So, by the way, since they're a monopoly, you can go and complain, and they can say, geez, these dairy farmers are losing lots of money because they keep losing their electricity. You know, that eventually gets back into the system, but it doesn't really. All right, so $10 a pole is very reasonable, $15 for setup. For a wind turbine, we're about $1,500. And you can, you guys know how much electricity one of those turbines produce? I mean, they produce about 5,000 households each. So that's a lot of electricity dollars that they lose when they go down. So $1,500 plus, what does it cost to send a guy to climb up there on ropes? Certainly more than $1,500, right? You know? So it's affordable, and that's part of our design.
Gina, I think a lot of what you're doing is preventative. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that you're planning effectively.
What about after the fact? Like if the power pole were to fall down, can your Pecos Data systems do things to help after the
Yeah,
fact?
I mean, in the let's use the hurricane as an example. For Irma, the area, the system we have right now will take in, geez, we're going to lose 40% of this barrier island system. And we need to go in there and figure out when we're going to rebuild it. We'll use satellite data. It comes sometimes from here and sometimes from over here. And we'll take a look and we'll do quick change detection to say, here's a red zone. In other words, there's nothing left. All you have to do is take a look at the Bahamas and say, there's nothing left here. Don't even bother. It's going to take you 10 years. No, actually, that's what it is in Puerto Rico. 1 year to fix it. All right. How long is it? I mean, they're still rebuilding from Irma in Puerto Rico. The biggest issue is for short-term critical infrastructure reestablishment. So during Irma, the power company lost power. FPNO actually lost power for an hour, which made me laugh, because I was working with them at the time. It's actually publicly known, so I didn't violate any covenant. So they had a crew sitting at a fairground, waiting to go fix things, but they wouldn't move because there was standing water on the road. So our system actually showed the standing water, but they didn't know how deep it was. So their method of knowing how deep it was they relied on the local sheriff and fire department. And they said, no, there's water on the road, you can't come out here, period. So they couldn't turn their own power back on. So, you know, you have to have a system too that actually, in that case, assesses damage. And our system, you know, that actually begs a much bigger question for these guys and these companies. This is massive safety issues, like standing water, sending a crew into standing water, and to fix electricity. How many of you guys would do that? Would you send somebody you know into standing water to fix electricity? Even if your CEO's standing there saying, I don't have electricity. And that's, we just give them the data to answer your question directly. We said, here's your data, and they look at me like, go ahead, Paul.
Well, yeah, you can certainly autonomously fly the drones over the specific area that your flight plan, and then that can be just uploaded into the web-based UI, and then any utility company or FEMA has that data then to observe immediately, even before you get crews out there. You can start planning your recovery efforts immediately just from the web-based UI.
And then last question, Jean, what can we as a community do for you in the next 12 weeks or even after?
Well, the key thing is that we want your support as we go out to collect data and find people who are willing to collaborate with us to make the data happen. And ideally, since this is a proof of concept close demonstration, they get some benefit from it. So if we did a wind turbine, and we didn't charge them for the first one, but we hope to charge them for the next 10 of them, or 20 or 40 of them, they get the benefit from us learning and showing them how to do it. Everyone learns. And by the way, we're just down the street from one, and we're not sitting in Washington DC or Seattle, Washington, where there's no wind turbines. So that means somebody has to get on a plane, actually, one of our advisors has to get on a plane, fly to DFW, drive all the way here. Say, no, we're gonna put a programmer right here, we're gonna go out there and take a look at this with a drone guy, we're gonna figure this all out. The second thing is we're looking for strategic investors that actually have the pain point. And the pain point in the utility industry are the people that consume the electricity. The utility industry, left to their own devices, in my opinion, will just keep doing what they did yesterday. They're like GM in 1980, that says at some point I'm going to collapse, but not today, right? And today is not the collapse point. The collapse point is sometime in the future. By the way, I'm the CEO, and I'm making lots of money. By the time I retire, somebody else, that's actually, one guy said, by the time I retire, this guy here will be in charge of this. You know? So the adoption rate might be long, but somebody is going to be first. And I'm hoping somebody in this community will be first, whether it be a cooperative, whether it be a group of customers that make a big company like Excel pay attention, or whether that be a Texas-based regulatory system that says, hey, we're going to go this direction.
One thing I would emphasize, one approach I think we can take in building customers is just understanding my infrastructure, surveying my infrastructure, knowing what is there, permanently have a metadata, identifying what it is, its location, and then integrating that into my planning tools so I can more efficiently develop my maintenance plans. I think that for any even small or large utility company, that can bring enormous benefits and cost reduction. I don't necessarily have to use a tool that identifies a corroded transformer or lightning arrestor. You know, that can be down the road because then I have knowledge of something that might fail. Now I have to go spend money to fix it. I understand that sensitivity, but just planning my maintenance crews. I mean, I believe Ford Power & Light was considering developing a drone division.
That's right.
Just for that.
Right.
So the potential there, just to understand what my infrastructure is and how I can better and more efficiently, instead of guys flying up on poles or vans driving up and looking up at poles and very man-intensive processes, make it more automated so I can plan out my maintenance procedures and save millions of dollars for large utility companies.
I'm just thinking, can you license the software to those utilities? Do that?
They don't have a lot of capability left to develop software. Almost everything's outsourced to somewhere between an IBM and a tech company. And the people that are in charge of the development prefer it that way. In other words, the systems work for long periods of time that way. So the likely licensors would be a larger manufacturer like GE or Siemens, fundamentally because it's their equipment on the poles, and they're the ones saying, hey, you know, it works. You know, this is GE saying, GE says this stuff works, and if you do more of this type of activity, which is predictive maintenance, it'll work even better.
Well, these utility companies are already purchasing drones.
Yes, they are.
They just don't have any intelligence.
That's right. That's right.
And so why are they purchasing drones? They're going to put all that money in there. Is it possible to say, hey, don't purchase those drones, purchase our drones. You get the software package, the whole 9 yards,
We're trying that.
and go out.
We're trying it. Petronell's here in Austin had already tested themselves in about 20 drones and already made our own homegrown system with a IT firm. And when we came in, the guy in charge of it said, well, I already committed to DJI. I'm already flying it this way, and I'm already processing the data this way. I want to do this, but I don't want to do it now. And the reason was he was on a program and on a budget cycle. If you're corporate, I don't know how many of you guys are corporate, but you're on a cycle. So now in November, you can go up and say, I want to try something next year that does something different than what I'm doing right now. And the IT guys raised his hand and said, no, wait a minute. This vendor's been a long-term vendor of ours, and DJI is what the industry's using, and we don't want to change anything yet. We've done drones, is what they say. We've done the drone thing. You know? So I'm like, but you're not really doing it the way that actually gets the benefit, to your point. All right, so yeah, that is a real challenge for us, and I've been in the field trying to sell this for over a year. Paul can attest to that. Strategic investors are the other challenge. There's investors that will just buy into this under the theory that eventually this is what's called a winner-take-all market. That if you can hang out here long enough, there'll only be one standard. You know, that there won't be any competitors. But the issue is we have a competitor who's well-funded, who believes it's a winner-take-all market. So they're sitting there saying, okay, we'll just wait these guys out. Now, they're not doing anything in our particular industry, they're just better funded. They can sit there and lose money for 5 years. Or that's where a strategic investor comes in. They have investors that say, this is a winner-take-all market, it's gonna take a decade. We'll give you $100 million, hang out for a decade, you'll win. So it's, you bring up a very valid question. I think there's someone somewhere, hopefully in the Panhandle of Texas, that wants to do this, and they will be the innovator, and the industry will follow. I think they can actually, and they're in a community of people in the utility industry that understand that. They just don't want to, they're very risk averse, like most people are. Go ahead.
Gene, have you considered, just to bridge that funding gap, have you considered serving warehouse roofs, factories, just basically, I'm sure that your technology is just as applicable there, just
It's
flying
interesting,
over and-
I've looked at a lot of alternative strategies. The one that's leading right now, which Paul's actually working on with a gentleman that we just hired, is in countries in Asia, specifically Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines. We're not going to China simply because of the situation. But let's just take Singapore as an example, or Malaysia. Malaysia is my favorite because I've been there a lot. Malaysia has built very modern cities. And they say, we have the most modern grid, the most modern telecommunication system in the world. But they have not, just like with the wind turbines, they've not figured out a maintenance routine at all yet. Because these cities are brand new in the infrastructure. So they're saying, we got to get on top of this, because if we're going to say we're the best in the world at this, so the Malaysian telecommunications and electric company, which is a government entity, and said, we'll give you $45 million and just come over here and do it here. That seems to be the strongest strategy at this moment, is that these government-based developing economies that have new infrastructure aren't on top, just like the new infrastructure in the wind turbines, aren't on top of their maintenance routines, and they don't have the indigenous engineering talent. We looked at insurance, we looked at cat damage, we looked at railroads. They're just thin markets. It's not that you couldn't make money, it's just not the kind of money that gives you the kind of returns you're looking for. Does that answer your question?
Certainly the visualization tool with the geospatial awareness and the metadata ability, you can suck in any data and then have a presentation capability. So I think the process and the tool is applicable to any infrastructure in industry that with expansive infrastructure, where it has a difficult problem to find it. So a nuclear power plant, for example. I was in the Air Force, retired for 20 years. I'm sure the boneyard where all the airplanes are at, it would be good to have that as a customer. Or Air Force bases, just to map out their infrastructure where everything is around their airport. Another point of, and that's what we're working on with the guy, with our partner he's a European partner. He has an anti-terrorism capability. So understanding your weak points, if your infrastructure attacked by terrorist attacks. And Malaysia and a few other countries in Southeast Asia are worried about that's a vulnerable point in which they can blow up a dam or something, take out a power grid, or cause terrorism attacks. And then you can use our data to maybe do some predictive or teaming, red, blue, what I used to do in the Air Force, run scenarios where you're attacked. And you can look at your infrastructure and say, okay, where would a terrorist attack? And now I visualize it, and I have data that I can use to do that.
Unfortunately, you can weaponize electricity. And I don't know how long you guys could last here. If the lights went out for 10 days, how many people would still be in business?
Well, thank you guys so much. We're right out of time. Bob and Gene will both be here, so feel free to stick around and ask questions if you didn't get a chance to do that. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much for both of you for presenting. Like I said earlier, we'll have 2 more months of our WIRE Accelerator cohort that'll be here presenting their technology, so make sure you come back. Our next one is on October the 2nd. And it will be downtown in our new co-working space at Revolution. If you are not on our email list already, please come see me or Megan. We'll make sure that you're added to that, so that way you know all the updates. And then lastly, the best way to get any updates or find out what's going on is to download the app. 1 Million Cups app, follow Amarillo. We send out emails to remind you about it, and then any updates that happen there. So thanks for coming. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.